Our June Galatea Fine Art Show, Persistence, is dedicated to Black Lives Matter, healthcare for all, and environmental justice. Please visit nocompressor.com to understand the issues of this fracked gas pipeline project in Weymouth and what it poses for the South Shore and Boston area environment and waterways. After 5 years, Weymouth, Quincy, Braintree, and Hingham won a major victory. The First Circuit Court vacated the air quality permit. We need support from all to convince our Governor Baker and the Mass Department of Environmental Protection to do the job to protect Massachusetts residents and the environment. They should not restore this permit. So if you go to that site, you will understand the consequences of a fracked gas compressor station in the middle of a highly populated neighborhood that abuts the waterways of Boston and faces the Boston public, the Boston Harbor Islands. So thank you. My show is called The Winds of Change, and things change quickly. This show, my June show, was intended to have an installation piece that I'm not showing it now. Eventually things will change and I'll get back to it. Are you ready to do this one? My studio is the outside world. I'm primarily a plein air painter. I am outside all the time I can be. And if I don't finish my paintings outside, it's usually because of the elements. But as I've been working, my paintings are pretty much abstracted landscapes, and even that when I'm sitting in the landscape, I realize sometimes I don't look at it. The painting takes over, and my paintings are more about colors and shapes, and pretty much the formal elements of art. So here I am. I live both in Quincy, Massachusetts, near Wollaston Beach, on the edge of a marsh, and I'm now here in Ossipee, New Hampshire, in the Ossipee Mountains. Social distancing, which is easy here because there's nobody much around because it's black fly season and there are not too many people here anyway. But here I am. I walk every day. I'm walking to the river because I know there are trillium there, an endangered flower, which most of you know. And I'm going down to the river to at least sketch it if I don't sit there and paint. So I walked there the other day. I knew the trillium were blooming. So I kind of seek them out, and I found a place where I like the bottom of the leaves and the shapes of the leaves, and I like looking into the forest. So I like showing the beautiful flowers in their environment, hoping that people can be transported to the place by kind of working through the shapes. Next slide. So this is the finished piece. I didn't sit all day because the bugs here are just miserable right now. But I have done enough of the painting outside, and I just really like the shapes of the leaves against the other growth to put the flowers in context. This is the front of my cabin, and there's a lilac bush. I've been waiting for it to blossom, and this is the beginning. And I like looking through and into the pines, which you're not seeing now. So this was also a difficult sitting of doing this painting because the flowers were attracting bees and black flies. So I started it here. I cut some lilacs, brought them to my other studio, which is netted. Go ahead. and I worked on it some more. It was I got bitten alive, so I could cut my lilacs and bring the lilacs in. And the next slide is my finished painting. Um,
Yvonne,
it,
what kind of flies?
they're lilacs. It's a
No,
lilac.
flies.
Oh, black flies. It's black fly season up here in the
Uh,
mountains.
yeah.
Yeah, they just like you get into a horde, and you stay, and there were also baby bees, like so. After a while, I had to run. So get next. Um, our cabin is on a pond. It's called Connor Pond, and early spring we came here in March when this pandemic uh, arose, and it was pretty gorgeous. And what I wanted to capture was the pinks and the lavenders in the mountain across the way, as because it wasn't all green. It was quite lovely. It's always beautiful, but I particularly liked all of the colors before everything turned to green. And I will say lately, because of Instagram, I've been looking at a lot of Australian painters that I love. And what I love is their spontaneity and they're just expressive color and design of their landscape. And I'd love to go to Australia because it just seems very magical. So this painting I sort of painted while I was thinking about the work I've been looking at. This is another painting I did when I sort of wait for the flowers, especially the woodland flowers, to bloom. And there's a particular this I painted. It was very cold in winter. At the end of winter, snowdrops. This is my house on the edge of this marsh that also has that a lot of dead leaves and interesting foliage. And so I waited for those snowdrops, and I did sit out there the entire day with a woolen sweater and gloves, and I made this painting. And I wait for those snowdrops every year. And uh, this painting is a little bit older. I painted it in the Blue Hills in Canton, not far from Quincy, where I live, and hadn't been there for many years. And when I went, it reminded me of Monet's garden. I sat there for a week working on these, and the muck alongside this wetland, and it's rather a large painting. It's 3 panels, and I just love the shapes and I love the muddy stuff that kind of makes everything pop. Go to the next one. This is a painting. I call it Trees in Trouble. Uh, this happened earlier this year during a windstorm when we were in our house in Quincy. In the middle of the night, we live across from Wollaston Beach, and sometimes the winds or the environment becomes pretty wild. In the middle of the night, there was an enormous boom. A huge willow tree uh, came pounding on our roof from the marsh during this windstorm, and the roots, I guess, in the marsh don't hold up very well. We found, and it filled the entire side of our house, the back side of our house. Luckily, it didn't come straight through the roof, but it was the next day, of course, was sunny and beautiful, and the tree was pretty magnificent. And while we were waiting for workers to come to take this tree away, that also broke windows, but wasn't too bad. I painted it, and it went across my whole house. So the middle panel is my cat Poncho, who was in the kitchen, and the first panel is the living room. So it just went clear across the back of our house. And I kept thinking I have to hurry and make this painting before they cut down the tree, but because the whole city was a disaster, I had plenty of time to make the painting. This is back here. I walk up the road in the woods here in Ossipee. We're in Ossipee, New Hampshire, and I knew it was time for the lady slippers, and they're pretty profuse right now. And up the road, I looked into the forest, and there they were sitting on this rock with fern, and the fern were kind of creating a kind of a green gold halo. So, and I love the triangles, so I wanted to paint that. And this is back to the lilac bush. There were many butterflies, so while I was out there, it kind of led me to wanting to paint the next painting, which I've just started, which is butterflies on the lilacs. So I just started that. So that's the show. That's although like Nora said, our this show June show is on Artsy, and it's very cool to have them on Artsy. They're looking very good. Thanks to Jennifer.